Whatever it is, Adept Cosmetics just on crack these days, this whole year. When they announced their whole repackaging in 2024, people were really not happy about this because from their themed other packaging, they changed to something very, very sleek and plain. And honestly, I prefer this actually over the older packaging. I just remember the Flying Fiddle palette where it had this like net thing around and everything was stuck to that. It even ripped in my collection because I stored it in a shelf. Then this gritty sensory nightmare palette that they did together with Amy Loves Makeup. While the palette is insanely good, I just hate the glitter outer packaging. I just can't. Plus, it was one of the reasons why my Flying Fiddles ripped. Did I have Flying Fiddles? No, I didn't have. I had that rosy one, but that had the same weird net thing around. I don't know why I thought it was Flying Fiddles. Flying Fiddles was another one, but you know what I mean. This here is the Rhnull palette, inspired, kind of not, but themed around that very, very rare blood type that exists in the world. I don't know what the color story has to do with that blood type, but I kind of like the thought behind this because if you are that creative that a blood type is inspiring you to a color story in a palette, do whatever you like. I do like this. This is their classical 15 pan, and I'm really, really happy that we are very consistent with the palette sizes in Adept Cosmetics. I like their 15 pans, and out of these 15 shades, you have 5 mattes. A very, very light gray, a grayified, kind of dark, olivey green. Then we have a darker gray, a mauvey shade with Toxic Foam, and that very not matching Oracle shade that is a greeny green. I will talk about the color story in my final rating. The rest of the shades are the shimmers. We do have this very interesting, very thin formula, but that is very, very impactful. As you can see, this is, by the way, the look number 3 that I'm wearing right now. So let's take a sneak here into the swatches. I, once again, just had a beautiful time swatching these. The only problems that I had while swatching were actually with the darker mattes, but honestly, that does not tell anything about the quality because swatching always just gives you a feeling of how, is it drier in the shadow? Is it easier? Is it something that kind of falls out? Is this more powdery? That's all I need to know from the swatches because at the end, to fill out these swatch stickers, I usually have to dig into the pan at least 2 times. The shimmers, all of them swatched very, very well. I didn't have any real problem. And also in the video you saw, it's just, it's such a sparkle heaven. I will create 3 looks for you with this palette and then give you my final thoughts. So let's start with that, let's say. So start with grit and use this as transition. I do think that this is not necessary since this is such a light gray, but we will see. Maybe it helps with the rest of the shades that I'm planning to use. But yeah, it's so freaking white. I could use this as highlighter. But now I pick up Oracle and I apply this through the crease and also blend it into the grit shade a bit. I went now a second time into the green shade to just build it up. And then I picked up more of grit on the first fluffy brush and just used this to smooth it out. Actually, for that, it's a good shade. I now pick up Graveyard Jane and apply this on the outer outer crease area. Now I pick up Synth Moss and I use this on the outer half of the lid. To be honest, I'm now surprised that this is more pink than actually green. But on the other hand, should I be surprised with Adept shades? Actually, not. But this is a very interesting mix of pigments because there is this very dirty green in there, but also this kind of bright pink And depending on how you turn, one or the other comes, but it's also a blackened shade, so very, very interesting. Next up, I take Ensorcelment. I hope I'm saying that right. And obviously, I apply this now on the rest of the lid. Where they both meet, by the way, I just take the side with Ensorcelment, that second green shade on the brush, and then I just wiggle it together. And then I take one of the brushes that I just used and go through the crease one more time. One of the ColourPop New Moon liners, this is Wolfgirl. This is going to match quite well because it is warm and also greeny a little bit. So I take that and line my waterline. I now pick up Graveyard Jade again, which is, by the way, a surprisingly beautiful grayified green. That one I do really like. And I use this to smudge that all along the lower lash line. And then I pick up Oracle and use that to just buff it out. For the inner corner highlight, I'm unsure because Ghostwire, when I look at Ghostwire here in the pan, it does shift from green to pink. When I look at Venom Pulse, it does shift bluish green. And yeah. Ghostwire or Venom Pulse? Honestly, I think I will take Venom Pulse. So let's pick up this one. And that one I now apply on the inner corner. Okay, it also shifts pink. Where is the freaking difference? And here we have the finished look. On the lips, I went with this Girl Code lip gloss from their summer line. I actually didn't put the name sticker on, I just have the number. It's JK01. Honestly, I like that look. It is very, very nice, although it is green. But this is a very nice shade of green, so I'm fairly excited for the upcoming looks. Starting with Toxic Foam, I then take Grit and use this just to smooth it out a bit. Honestly, that Toxic Foam shade is really nice. I'd love to have a shade like this as a powder contour. I feel like that will work very, very well with my skin. I then take Glitch Serpent and I use this to just deepen the outer part. I now pick up Shadow Circuit, I think is the correct pronunciation. I use this on the outer half here of the lid. And then I pick up Iron Nexus and I use this now on the rest of the lid. Ooh, Iron Nexus reminds me a lot of one of these Space Cowboy, the Moon Dust from Urban Decay. I then picked up Toxic Foam again, and now I just go through the crease once more. For liner, I take MAC's Nightstone and line the waterline. And I pick up Glitch Serpent and smudge that on the lower lash line. But also take Toxic Foam to buff that out. Then pick up Pixel Phantom and I use this as inner corner highlight. Honestly, I wish I had changed the shades, so Pixel Phantom on the inner half of the lid and Iron Nexus as inner corner highlight, but I don't mind a dark inner corner. I just wish that I had changed the two shades because that would have been even better than this is already. And here we have the finished look. On the lips, I went with Fenty's Major Flex Gloss. That sadly was limited, so if you can grab this, do it because it's beautiful. And the look is beautiful itself too. It is smoky and dark and gunmetal-ish without being overpowering, so that is something that I right away want to say. This palette is dark and kind of smoky, but it is not too much, which on certain days I prefer that. So now, very, very excited for the last look, where I definitely will use Silver Fang and Multi-Hex. Start with Graveyard Jane, and I apply this very heavy here on that outer part, and then I let it fade in the crease and bring it inwards. I then pick up Toxic Foam, and that one I start to apply in the crease in the center, bringing it inwards, and then I let it fade upwards. And last but not least, I pick up Grit and I use this to buff out the edges. Actually, this is not the best buff out shade because it is quite pigmented, so it covers a little bit. Honestly, for future looks, I would use this just as I did in the first look and apply this as first shade. Although you can't see it, the effect is revealed when you start blending shit into it. But it's no problem, I just take Toxic Foam back and reapply a little bit. I'll pick up Multi-Hex. I'm very curious about this shade here. And I apply this on half of the lid, starting in the center, bringing it outwards. Oh, I love the contrast between the dark, very cool tone shades with that copper shade and the multicolored glitter. Oh, that's a cool shade. Let's contrast it in with Silver Fang. And I apply this on the rest of the lid. And where they both meet, I just wiggle them together and a little bit of pigment from the Multi-Hex shade is transferred to the Silver Fang side, which I'm really not mad about. For liner, I take Colourpop's Joyride to just match the reddish look. And I hope that this will work. Then pick up Graveyard Jane and smudge that here on the lower lash line, very close to the lash line. Because I now take Glitch Serpent and buff that out. There are actually two shades, I think. Yeah, two shades that I haven't used yet. And I totally forgot, so now I wish that I had used Electric Viper on the inner part. I don't know what it is in this video, but I actually take Electric Viper now. And we see how it works as an inner corner highlight. Let's be experimental. Ooh. I also blend it here into the Silver Fang shade and buff it out on the lower lash line. Oh yeah, I like that. And here we have now the finished look. I am digging that look, also with the darker inner corner, and honestly, the only shade that we haven't used yet is the shade Ghostwire, but I do think that this is probably applied very close to Electric Viper because both have these pinky green shifts, with the exception that Electric Viper, I think, has a darker pigment as base. So I'm not mad about this. Let's talk about my ranking. I have it all down here. Quality, 10 out of 10. Yes, I will not hold back now and say this, because Adept Cosmetics has been recently, whatever they changed in their formula, I absolutely love it, and I don't want Adept Cosmetics to change back. Their mattes, they do require a little bit of building sometimes, or a little bit of patience, but to me, that is, in this case here, with this palette, not even a problem, because I can manipulate the mattes exactly the way I need to work with all the different types of shimmer in here. Adept Cosmetics, you nailed it. You found your shimmer formula. I know that some people do not like these more thin ones. I love them because they are not only thin and not a bit squishy, they are impactful. They are so amazing. I absolutely love this formula and I just cannot stop raving about this. So that's why quality is actually here at 10 out of 10. I have nothing to criticize. Color story wise, a little bit. This is a 9 out of 10 for me. Honestly, what I do not like is the greens in here. Graveyard Jane I like, but the Oracle shade I do not need. Honestly, I do think, and yes, I know this is magnetic, you can blah 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 rearrange it. I will not rearrange it. Let me say that for once and for all. But instead of the green, I think this palette would, oh my god, that would have been a 10 out of 10 in color story if there was a black. I think a black matte eyeshadow would have been amazing. And if it's not a black, maybe something way darker than Glitch Serpent. Something in the shadow circuit line, a little bit darker, but matte, then like a very dark gunmetal gray. That would have been the absolute top notch in the color story of this palette. And personal excitement, I give it a 9 out of 10 because I saw this. I was very, very interested in the color story. And while the green, especially the orca one, does throw me off a little bit, the rest of the green does not, because they do have a nice undertone that works for me very, very well. So in total, the original palette scored a 9.3 out of 10, and other palettes in my collection that have the same are from Blend Bunny, Longing, Beauty Below, Lure, Shall We Make Up Somber Garden, or the new Minka, the reformulated 15 pan version of Minka, also scored a 9.3. So I'm very, very happy with this. Can I recommend the palette? Actually, yes, I am. I am not only surprised, I think surprised is the wrong word, because I had a certain expectation level towards this since Adept Cosmetics really amped up their quality game. And I was not disappointed, and that makes me very, very happy. As said, I do have my thoughts on the color story, but I also know that a lot of people do love this, so yeah. Maybe Adept Cosmetics, we could do a palette together with my personal dream colors. Oh my god, I would love that. But maybe that is for another chapter in this YouTube career. Let me know your thoughts. Do you have this palette? Are you going to pick this up now? Or did you already and you created looks? If so, please tag me on Instagram, because I love to take a look at your beautiful creative looks. You are all just so freaking creative and talented and wonderful with your looks. I absolutely adore this. Let me know your thoughts. My personal favorite look, I think the second one. The second one, then this one, and although I really like the greenish look that we did first, this is my least favorite because the other ones were just better. But overall, I liked everything that I created. So, thank you so, so much. Please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of the other upcoming videos, and I see you very, very soon.